9 children, girl. My wife took advantage of me, and there you are. I've Thomas said that to her. And she'd be highly embarrassed with the people, and they'd say to me, they'd ask you, how many kids have you? I said she took advantage of me 9 times.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And raising children, you were in the army for a while, weren't you?
I was there. I was there 2 years actually. That's all I was there, because my dad he was very unwell, and I was known through the farming, so I had to leave the army then. Like, and I wouldn't have been kind of sorry if I just had to come back from Cyprus from 6 months out there.
Yeah.
And I wasn't polishing buttons, wasn't my thing. Like, and saluting fellas all day around the place and turning my thing. I'd be truthful about it. But so that was the army I enjoyed was out in Cyprus. I enjoyed that. I'll be truthful about it. Like, that was very good. Like, yeah.
That was quite an experience to be abroad for 2 years.
It was, it was, yeah.
And coming back home, then what did you find when you came home? Was it
my lonely, like when you back to the old valley and you're cycling to town, and we were coming out, a bunch of us wallets. I remember there was a man over the road there. He was Owen Sullivan. He was a very nice lad. He was a great old character. And we'd all cycle into the old boys club, you see. Mm-hmm. And of course the guards had heard about us. We had no flash lamps or witness in the bikes. And of course, Owen, we all joined the FCA along go, like you see. We only joined to get the uniform. The uniform, the overcoat. So anyway, the guard was there near the powerhouse, and he had a hand out, and of course, Owen in the court, he threw it over the guard, and we all got away. Yeah. And there were some great old characters, like, but anyway.
Yeah.
But to talk about Owen was a fierce, nice man, and he had a brother Christian. They were two very nice people, honest to God, they really were. And his father, father was a bit of a character as well. I remember one day to hear a man talking about him. He said that, when the insemination for cows came out, we all didn't know actually what was happening, how it was done. Nobody knew how it was done. And this day anyway, the inseminator was called over to his house, and the man came out, and he was a bit of a character too, the same for Joe Daly, and tell me, sir, he said, you have a cow going to dairy, that's what they say for cows in heat, and we have, sir, he said, but where is she? He said, like that. He said, well, you know where she is. She's out in the land somewhere. So he said, I'll come back around dinner time, to the manager, he said. And he comes back again at dinner time. Where is the cow now? The cow was missing. He came back the third time. And he said, tell me, he said, did you have a cow going to dairy? Joe said to him, did you have a cow going to dairy? He said, tell you the truth, sir, we're all going to dairy here, he said. Yeah.
And farming has changed a lot since then. What's different?
Oh God, the farming in Angola was, everybody helped each other. There was nobody looking for money, You go to anybody to help them for a day, and they'd come to you, and that's the way it was,
Yeah.
But there was a farmer over there in the barrack, if you call it. That was christened the barrack because there was over where Jeremiah Calden did, Jeremiah and Sheila, was Rockies and them. There was 21 houses there one time, 21 families.
21 families?
Living in that area, that small area.
Okay, up where Calden's are.
Yeah, and they said, the reason it got the name of the barrack was that all the neighbours were fighting with each other because the cats and the dogs and the hens and everything were all breaking into each other's place, and that's why it was known as the barrack. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And big families as well.
They were all big families, they were, They were. There was one woman over there, and she's not too far away. She was actually a relation of my own. And she had, 24 children.
Wow.
Yeah, 24 I think she had, 16 of them lived, I think.
Yeah.
But she had twins and triplets and everything together,
Yeah.
But
there's a very loud dog over there.
The only old kind of a story I'd have to tell, I haven't, is right outside of our house here. He was Paddy O'Sullivan was his name. Mm-hmm. Very droll kind of a situated man he was. But anyway, he had hay to save. He said that all the people would come those days to save the hay. These two men from over that direction came. And anyway, he would up. He said he'd go up. He'd go up and put on a bit of meat for the dinner, like, you know, and get the two boys were there turning the hay. Everything was done by pikes and all that sort of type thing. So anyway, he called him, and in a few hours he had an old sheep hanging up in the tree. There was no fridges that time, you see.
Yeah.
The sheep was there. The sheep was there about 3 weeks in the middle of the summer, hanging down. So he got the sheep, and he boiled it, and of course he called the two lads. After about 3 hours, the two boys came up anyway. And oh God, they were hungry, and they started to eat. Anyway, they had soup first. Anyway, they were delighted with the soup, and then they did the main course. And oh God, halfway through the main course, anyway, one fellow said that he was being pregnant. He said he was in an awful state. He had to go for the ditch. There was no toilet that time. You see, it was out the ditch,
course,
nearest ditch you go. The other fellow was very shortly after them, the two of them. But I can remember, like, that time when I went to school, they had this fierce diarrhea. It was unbelievable for 3 or 4 weeks, but one of them, they used to get an odd day at that time working in the council, you see.
Yeah.
The farmers would be called to give them a couple of bob now and then. And one of them was so bad that he couldn't keep his trousers, so he cut the ash out of his trousers and he hung a blanket over he had a blanket around him, and every time like he'd feel go, he'd just lift up the blanket. It was like an agitator spreading slurry. Yeah. So
you had the quick release.
Oh, the quick release, that was right. He nearly died after, like, it was desperate, like rotten meat, but like when it's boiled, you don't roast it, like, you know, kind of that's the way it is, yeah. But they had some 3 or 4 weeks of it anyway, non-stop, you know,
God, yeah. There's very little refrigeration.
Cripes, there was nothing, Gittle.
Yeah.
There was nothing at all, Gittle, nothing, Gittle. So everything was, you know.
So preserving food, what would you have done to keep
They'd
food
have
for longer?
salted barrels, the pig inside and salt meat, like that's what you were always eating, salt, pork, like the pig or the animal, they'd be all salted, like there'd be salt, there'd be so much inside, and Lord God, we'd all day drinking water, you know, there'd be that bad after it. Yeah.
So keeping a pig for the family would be the normal?
Oh, pig would be, every house would nearly have a pig, like, you know, because all the houses at that time had lots of kids, you see, and everyone had to have, you know, there was no means of going to town, really, like, you know, the horse, and maybe you'd take in things were so bad, you might take in a carrot turf, you know, the old turf in the bog. You might get £1 for a horse load of it, like, that'd be your, you might get a few messages for that kind of, and that was it, that's the way things were. You know, things were pretty bad.
And what would you buy when you went into town? What would you be going in for?
It would be mostly a loaf of white bread was a big novelty, kind of, like, you know, at that time.
Yeah.
But there was a man used to come around the road there. He was, Dennis was his name. He'd buy the butter off you, like, when you'd separate the milk, you get the cream off it, and then they'd make butter and they'd sell that for your man above the cross. You might have, if you had a good few cows, like, you could have maybe 20 pounds of butter like that, but it was only a £0.5 that you maybe get for £1 of butter. That half a crown, that was about 12.5 pence now, like, in Eleanor.
Yeah.
But that's the way it was, Gittle. My job the most, for they'll tell the truth, Gittle, was out helping neighbours that had no families, and we'd be sent to help the neighbours, and you might get 2 shillings and you come home and you give it to your parents. That's the way it was, Eleanor,
You'd hand it back up.
That was the way it was, but...
And did you enjoy going out working for neighbours?
God knows I did, because they'd have more food probably than we had. Then people would have more food on the table. Like, all we had ever was bread and butter, kind of. That was a lot of it, and a bit of meat, maybe once or twice a week. That'd be it, you know.
Okay. So you wouldn't have had meat every day?
No, meat was an awful novelty that time. You know, you'd have plenty butter all the time. That was the only thing you had. Plenty butter and plenty spuds and eggs. There'd be hens and things there all the time. Like, and my mother-in-law, she was a kind of a generous woman. If she had any for bob at all, she'd always give it to the poor or do something. But like that, she was always, you know, every she was, you know, that's why I suppose myself that I like helping the poor, because she was always at it, whatever. And she had sisters in America. And Lord God, I'd be sitting there maybe $20 for Christmas, and $20 that time was an awful amount of money.
Big money.
You know, but she'd give the most of that away to the people, for the poor.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the way she was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
what do you miss about your childhood, Paddy?
My childhood, that we, like I said, because I don't, like I said, we never had much, like, and you'd be content with whatever what you had. You know, that was about it, like, but we had good times, like, kind of it. There'd be crowd around. My mother used to play the accordion there, and there'd be crowd here every night, like dancing inside the house and singing songs. And my father was a beautiful singer. They'd be always here dancing and singing, like inside the house there, yeah. But this man that was be over there, I will tell you about him there. Tim Sean, Lord mercy him for all that. He had all these stories, like he'd give it the whole night, the story after story. See, but I've let him forgotten, but he was a nice fiddle player, you know. Okay. So he was going to America anyway. And when he was above in Hardballing, he met this fella. He can't his fiddle with him, and he met this fella anyway. And the two of them struck up a tune anyway when they were on the boat together, and he said they were playing and singing along anyway. And he said when they were getting out over off the boat and getting the train for New York, when they heard all the music, you see, just coming off the train. And he said, Tim says to your man, and he said, "Heart of Christ, Paddy," he said, "we're Irishmen. You will play up a tune for our country, do you see?" And the Salvation Army, you know, the Rim crowd, they were all singing, "We're all going to heaven, praise the Lord." I had it myself, I did it over in England long ago. And Tim and your man strikes up a tune, "Yarn your ass, yarn your ass." For a whole, he could manage that tune, like. Yeah, but he used to tell, he'd be all night, he'd be scratching his head and he'd come up with these stories, he'd make them up there, and then he had another one, then another night he went on about, he had this talk like, "Heart of Christ, no lads." He said this toothache was very bad. And somebody had told him was, if you have a bad toothache, that time there was no medicines around them, nothing like, go into a bog and stand in your head inside in the water. Can you imagine? I was standing your head inside in the water. So he stood in his head anyway. And he was there standing. It was a grand moonlight night. So this man was walking along and he see Tim and he's standing his head inside in the water hole, like, you know. And the man comes near him and he said, "Heart of Christ, you fool, what are you doing there, standing your head?" "I have a toothache," he said. "Christ," he said, "every people gets toothaches, but they can't stand it." That's the only way, he said, to get rid of a toothache, to stand your head. He said he was so frightened and he's standing his head in the water and he see the shadow coming on, this fellow was coming on, and he had a spade for picking potatoes, you know, the spades they've long ago from the puppies. Yeah. And he thought it was the British soldiers were here that time. And heart of Christ, I was dying with fright. I thought I'd be shot, I could see them going up on his back, and it was a spade. And when the man said, "You fool, what are you standing your head for?" "Heart of Christ," he said, "I have a toothache." "And what are you doing with a gun on your back?" he said. "No," he said, "I'm way over to Bridie Connie." That was my mother, she was known as Bridie Connie. "I'm way over to Bridie Connie digging spuds because she had to lose her husband, her first husband. She died after 4 years. I got pneumonia, like, you know, kind of. And he was coming over here, by the way, working. And he thought it was a gun and that he was one of the English soldiers, like, that he'd be shot." Yeah. Yeah, but he had fear stories, like, you know, kind of, but they're all kind of gone out of my mind now, like, a lot of them are gone.
You've plenty of them.
I haven't, Eleanor Fitzgerald, I haven't.
So the old pishogues, the old superstitions.
There was a river over there, you know, where Connie Bryan's house is.
Yeah.
The river that's coming down there from Barabee.
Yeah.
They reckoned that time that you could, if you went there on a May morning, you could take, like me, that time when we were making butter from the cows and things like that. Whatever they do, they'd put it hair off their head or something, they'd put it into water and they'd say these words, Paul the Pishog or something like that. Yeah. And you could take somebody's butter from him. They said, Timmy Shane or Timmy Shea over across there, that his father, one time, that he couldn't make butter for 7 years, that the butter was taken from us.
Okay.
And he had cows, it was separate to milk, there was no cream. Yeah. So I don't know, but a lot of it was lies, I don't really know, you know, but there was another story about a man there, and well, he's dead now and gone, but a fierce, nice man. And he was playing cards anyway in the house over along there. And when he was going home anyway, he met this sow, big pig, and she's sitting on her backside, a little of the old rough area there, the cherry shaves around that area there. And he said, the man told me himself, I asked him afterwards, was it true? He said, Jack, it was Jory Shea's father actually, the poor old lad. I asked Jack, I said, was that true? Jack, I said, about the pig. Paddy, he said, the pig was there, right, he said. And the pig looked at me, he said. And I'll never forget the look in the pig's eyes. But he said she didn't, the other fellow said, she ran over the road with like a ball of fire, and there was bits and pieces of things added onto it, like, you know, but a lot of it was made up, like, kind of, but, you know, there used to be all old pishogues and everything long ago. You'd be afraid to go to see a bush coming home from town. You know, you'd be frightened of your life, you know, after see it moving, like, you know.
And would you have read books much, or would it have been all storytelling?
All such storytelling, all lies made up, I'd say, to be honest about it.
And that was the entertainment?
Sure, that was it. There was no other entertainment there, like, there was no television or nothing, like, you know.
Yeah.
A couple of bars of music, no accordion, and that was about it, girl,
yeah. Would you have had a radio in the house?
We hadn't we hadn't later in, like, you know, but we hadn't first, because we had no power here, would you believe it? I was married I suppose we were married nearly for 10 years before we got electricity in here, Eleanor. Yeah. So that's the way it was, girl, because it was tough. I remember even when the youngsters were born, I was coming down in the middle of the night and trying to get a bit of fire. Not even a gas cooker, like, there was nothing really, girl, you know. That's 60, 70 years ago, like, kind of, you know. Well, it wouldn't be 70 years since I got married, to be 55 now. Well,
so you still have the crane over the fire?
Huh?
You still have the crane over the fire?
The crane is still there, girl,
It's still there.
Well, that wasn't the actual fire at all. That was one we built up afterwards.
Okay.
The one we had before was a big hole in there was a big hole in the chimney going in behind that, and it was all made of timber, and sure, if it ever went in fire, the whole house was gone. You know, that's the way it was, girl,
Yeah.
Was there running water in the house at that point?
Not that time, girl, all. We'd have to draw it from the bottom of the field down there below. We'd have to draw every bucket of water, yeah.
And drawing water for animals as well?
That's it, girl, yeah.
That's
well, the only thing about the animals, when they be down the fields, like, there was always enough water in the river and things like for them, like, you know, but if they were in the winter time and they couldn't go with frost, and you'd have to draw it for them,
Yeah. And a cow will drink a couple of gallons of water.
I can tell you they would drink it well, unless they could get it,
drawing it for them, so what else is different about farming now? What do you think is better or worse about farming now?
Well, I suppose it's more modernised now anyway, because there's no really work in it now. Everything's done with machines, you know, Eleanor.
Yeah.
You see, even things like the turf cutting there, that was another one. That was a big thing long ago. There was a fella, he lived up there, the lot of us, and he'd cut turf for right, himself he would, you know, but he'd cut it on the bank and he'd leave it there, do you see, and you'd have to spread it out, and we sod like, you know, to spread them out. But anyway, he'd leave it there, and he went, but anyway, he used to sew 2 bags together, the big bags long ago. He'd cut the ass out of one of them, and he'd tie the 2 of them together, and he'd go to some fella's turf house and fill it up for the night and carry it home. And hay, likewise, he'd have no hay for the cows, and the old man, this old man over there was telling about it over the road there. He said, heart of Christ, he said, you could hear, the cows could smell him when he was over there at the bridge, the road going up to Drumleague. They'd start roaring, they could smell him coming with the hay, you know. Yeah. A poor old fellow, but he was
a character.
He was, honest to God, he was a very nice man. Honest to God, he really was a very he never got anything kind of, she used to have all the neighbours come in and she'd feed him, but poor old Jack never, he'd have an old, she'd make an old big cake, like, and it would be that high, and he'd never cut it, he'd just catch the cake in there, a white cake, and that would be his breakfast, dinner and supper, kind of, you know, kind of. So that's the way it was, Gil.
And eating it by the hand.
Yeah, but he was a fierce, nice old fella. Honest to God, he'd come down here. I remember we'd always, for Christmas Eve, he'd be on to our place here first. He'd come about 3 o'clock in the day, and he'd go over now, then Eleanor. He'd go all the way across over to Cumley. He'd probably go for us where the shop was. That him, like he ever know. He'd go from there, and he'd do every house from there back. And he'd end up here about 3:30 in the night again. He'd have tea and porter in every house, like Christmas Eve, He used, honest to God, but you'd miss him, like, kind of.
There'd be a rhythm and routine to it.
Sure, there you are.
Yeah.
But there was another fella there over in your house now. Poor old Mick was a lovely lad. But I knew his two brothers, he was telling me this night about it anyway. The big open fireplace, did you remember that one that was there? And he said crane, and there used to be a couple of sheets of galvanised over the crane there like that you could hold the soot when you're coming down, like, if falling, could hold it.
Yeah.
And Mick said this night that the two boys used to go down to Kait and they'd come home and they'd usually have there'd be a pot of turnips, maybe a bit of an old pig's head inside it, and they'd have a bit of grub there in front of the fire. And Mick was above and he said, he climbed up in the crane, and Mick was a big man, like, he said he made all these little balls of soot, out of the old soot in the chimney.
Yeah.
And he said, when the two boys came in anyway, he said, they were near the fire and they're talking about the night, and he threw down a little ball of soot, you see, at him, and this was going this was going on for a good few balls of soot went down anyway. And next thing the sheet of zinc went from underneath him. He came down, sheet and all, and the two boys went down the stairs. They were like bullets got out the stairs.
Grease lighting out the door.
Yeah. He split his forehead in the crane, he said, the poor old misfortune,
He must have been black from it.
Oh, sure, Christ almighty, the poor old dad, And he was he was a very nice man. He really was a nice man. Yeah.
So when you were a child, you went to...
That's right, girl, We only went to see the time, girl. That's why we have no education, we only went to see the time.
Yeah, and what age would you have been in school until?
I was in school and I was 14, I'd say, girl.
14.
That's the way it was.
Okay. So you had a good run of it.
What I learned was very little anyway.
Okay.
Myself and another fellow there, Neil Sweeney, the two of us, Neil would have an answer book for the answers or for the sums.
Yeah.
And of course, we just put down the answers, and then the teacher says, Sullivan, come up here and show them how you done that sum. My sister, you see, and the two of us were in the one class because I had bad tonsils and it affected my ear, and I had a bad kind of ear all my life.
Yeah.
And like the man said, there was no learning then kind of, but anyway.
Yeah.
But
and if you were sick as a child, you wouldn't have really been taken into the doctor, would you?
Oh no, again, the woman that was up there, I was talking about there, she wasn't married at all. She was good at medicine. She was in England for years, like, kind of, and she was the first woman that told us all about the hot blanket, what do they call the electric blanket.
Okay.
She came home, and even, of course, we had heard about this blanket, you see, but we didn't know what it was like.
Yeah.
And the man that was living next door there, he was a kind of a straight to the point man, like that was it. He'd say, like he said to her in there, and Katie, he said, would you tell me what is the blanket like? You see?
Yeah.
What does it look like? You're a Christ, she said, all you have to do is plug it in. And she didn't know what was like. I said that, nobody knew anything about him, Yeah.
Very fancy.
Yeah.
So would there have been remedies,
Christ, she was great.
Home medicine that you would have used?
God almighty,
what sort of things did you use?
I can remember I jumped off. There was an old fence over there now for the tree. For that tree there was a fence going across there. I remember I jumped off it one day anywhere and I was swing up there. And what did I come down it? And a bit of a pike and went up through my leg here, right out the top.
Yeah.
And there was no going to the doctor when you go up to Katie.
Yeah.
Do you know what the cure was that time for that kind of stuff? Paraphenol. Paraphenol to throat it. Yeah, and by cripes, I never had to go to a doctor. I bit from my leg after it anyway.
Yeah.
Straight through and out above. And tried to pull out that. Oh, God. Yeah. But another day, there was a man over here, the road there, and he was to suffer from very kind of sore legs and things. He said he used to be always rubbing methylated spirits onto his legs to keep them soft.
Yeah.
And of course, my dad was going to town this day. And any fella would be going to town with a horse and car. Anybody that want days, if they see some fella coming, they'd stop him and bring so many messages. You should have it the way it was, because nobody had transport.
Yeah.
And of course, he said to my father, Tim, he said, could you bring me home? He said, a bottle of methylated spirits. He said, rub that to his feet. Okay. And anyway, the father brought home to him anyway, and God almighty, next thing he rubbed on so much when I was over there. I used to be milking the cows for him. That time I was only about 10 years old and trying to milk. He'd have about 12 cows, and I tell you, because some of them were fairly cranky, and I tell you, but lashing and kicking, like, you know, and
Yeah.
he was rubbed on all the stuff to his legs, and he had his legs up on top of the range. Lord God, after a bit, the 2 legs went in fire. God almighty, roaring. Do you know how he cured his legs? Just had to believe it. Cow shit, cow manure.
Yeah.
Filled up he used a big wooden trays like that height for feeding the cows.
Yeah.
And every time he'd see the cow having a kind of a diarrhea, cow there had kind of a diarrhea stuff.
Good run of it.
Lord God,
Yeah.
yes, the skull we used to call it. Fill it up with, and he'd bathe his legs inside it. And by the Lord God, he cured his legs.
Wow.
Even I remember my own son there, Timothy's the eldest lad, sure he's above there now. They had little planes or something made with paper himself and Alison, or there's something like that done around the place. And this day, you know, it was in the winter time, and my mother, my Bernie the Creator, and she was a mighty woman for the fire. She'd always have a mighty fire. It was cold she had this time anyway. And it was blazing, and of course Alison threw the thing or something, and of course Timothy went for it and fell in the fire. That time it was a big open fire.
Yeah.
Lord God, his hands and his legs. I thought about the cow shit. She said he will poison the young fella. So did Dr. What was his name in Drumleague at the time? He said he'll poison the child. God almighty. Would you believe there wasn't one mark in that young fella after the cow shit?
Yeah.
There was a big cure in the killer. Yeah. And you know, it was nearly as good as the modern cures, to be honest about it, you know.
And more self-reliance.
Sure, there you are, girl, I know. It was all tablets and drugs now, like with all kinds, you know.
But people had to depend on themselves.
That's
and their
about it, girl,
neighbours
yeah.
And simpler solutions.
I know. I had the dad say there one time, now when the first motor cars come out, you know.
Yeah.
That was over now in Kilcrohan, where my dad came from. And the lads knew about it, the lads knew about it anyway, about the car. And this fellow was talking about, he was out this night, they used to call it scurry if he goes to somebody's house, he was a great man for going. And somebody said, if you ever see 2 lights coming on, to the devil is coming. And of course that time, there was fierce pressure with the devil that time.
Yeah.
To make sure, get away from Miss Pastor, and your man running the cameras getting up to me to the devil. So he went in over it and he fell into a lake. The car went on. You know, but he thought like, nobody knew what they were like, and I tell the girl, that's the way it is,
And he didn't know there'd be 2 lights shining out the front.
Sure, I know, girl, I know very well, I know. Things were... Yeah.
So if you, as a child, if you had no radio in the house, would you have got much news?
No, as I said, the woman that was up there, no, that woman that was steady there, that was a brother in the cake. She was like the postman, he'd be coming around every day and he'd have the news and everybody get the news off her what was happening. Okay. That's the way it was, Elder Gill,
So if there was something big happening in the world...
Well, you wouldn't know anything about the world, but the local area, that's all you'd know about. Like, yeah.
You wouldn't be too bothered with the rest.
Sure, that's the thing, girl,
And do you think people were happier for it?
God knows they were.
Yeah.
It's too much we know. I know, I think myself, to be honest about it, like things have gone too far.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
There's nothing anymore, only envy of people, and you know, there's people that aren't the same as they were long ago at all. Like there was always a lot of goodness in people in the olden days, like kind of they were, like they'd help each other out and they'd never look for anything, and you know, never to come back. But nowadays you can't do nothing for anyone because they're looking for money off you. Okay, that's the way it is, you know. But there was a fella, before I go, I don't know, they'll tell you about the turf long ago, there's called the turf, you know. There was a man living over there, where Sean and Mara's living. Sean and Mara over there in Cumley.
Oh yes, up in Cumley.
Well, just down below that, there's 2 other people there that English, I can't think of it, but
Paul and Betty.
Paul and Betty, yeah. Anyway, that time, you see, there was a few clients around here, you see, that they wouldn't cut no turf, but they go to everybody's shed in, you see, for turf for the winter, they'd call away late in the night with a big long bag, you know, and filled up. And of course, the man that was in this house before me, he was Patsy Bryan, that my mother was first married, and he died after 4 years. He got pneumonia and there was no cure for it. That time they killed him.
Yeah.
So anyway, there was a lot of here. If you have this Bryan man, he had a big rigs of turf and he's down the bogs there. You see, they'd know a lot of houses to hold it. They'd make a big rig there for the winter, maybe cover up and maybe with rushes and things. And of course the turf was disappearing, like he said, was being carried away, and he was down the stairs, he said, and it was missing, and some fella told him anyway, he said, you know what you'll do now, he said, with that, he said, Paddy, he said, is put a bit of gunpowder into a couple of sods, a little bit of gunpowder into the sods, and you'll soon know who's taking your turf. So of course the gunpowder was put into the turf anyway. And it blew the pot off the chimney, up the chimney, the pot went, there was a big pot, up the top of the chimney, the pot went, yeah. So they all that who were stealing the turf. Yeah, but there was a few fellas like that, like around here, like that would, they'd steal stuff away, but like for no bad stealing, it was only maybe a bit of turf, or maybe, like your man had the cows, he'd have two big long bags tied together, and he'd fill them some fella's shed, like, you know, and carry home for the cows. And your man said, about 2 miles over the road, they can smell him coming with the hay. They start roaring at home. The most good times were good, honest to God, they were good, girl,
So you would have never travelled away for holidays? Would you have gone over to the UK as a child?
No, girl,
You had family over in the UK? You wouldn't have gone to the UK as a child?
No, girl, because I had no family. The only family we had were all in America. They all went to America. My mother's uncle, brothers and sisters, they all went to America. Yeah. They did, girl. Yeah.
So if somebody came home from America, they might bring a few things with them. Do you remember any
they
of the
would,
things
girl,
they would have brought?
God, they would, but you know, even all the aunts and uncles I had when we were young, they never came home. They never came home. The only one that came home was living above there. She came home to see her dad. They were living out in Mealagh there, where Paddy O'Sullivan lived there. She's the only one that came. There were 6 of them went over, and they all stayed on the horse. She came back and she married this Russell man. Denny Russell was above there. She married him.
Very hard for people to travel.
Oh God, sure, I know. Girl, it was a big journey. Them like 6 weeks on a boat was a fright to God to face it, like. You know.
So it was coming back to send a few clothes back for a child.
So they were always sending home clothes here to my mother here for the children and everything. Christmas time, they'd be always waiting for a few dollars. I had one auntie in particular, she was Auntie May, and her son was here, and God knows, I don't know how many times she's dead now, the Lord of mercy, was a lovely man. She would always send home $20, and you get a lot of money that time. For a dollar was worth a lot more than a pound. Not like now, to vice versa, kind of.
Way around.
But we'd have a great Christmas anyway. If you got $20 from your auntie or anyone, you'd have a mighty Christmas out of it, like, you know. Only for America, then, you know, we were in a bad state here, girl. Really and truly.
And so the $20 at Christmas, what might be bought with it? What would be the things?
Girl, they used to have it for the usual treat here for Christmas there was hardly ever turkeys. It was fish, ling fish.
Okay.
Do you know the ling fish?
So it's a bit like cod, isn't it?
Yeah, that hanging from the top of the back door down to that'd be all eat over Christmas.
And it'd be salted ling,
wouldn't it? Salted ling, God was grand, honest to God was a grand elder. I myself and Bernie bought it a couple of times there, like just for to have it for a meal or two for Christmas out of it, like, you know. It was.
And what else would come into the house at Christmas time? What else would come into the house at Christmas time?
Well, what used to come into the house at Christmas time was bar and bracks. Every shop you deal in Bantry, you'd have maybe a couple of bar and bracks. We used to be red rotten from the bar and bracks in the latrine, like, kind of Eleanor.
And do you think your grandparents' life would have been very different to your parents' life, or would it have been similar?
Like Jack Shea used to say, they were similar, he'd call it. I'd say they were nearly all the same, I'd say, near enough, Eleanor. You know, they never had a whole pile, like in, when my grandparents were in Kilcrohan, like, they were always pretty well, because they had fish. They'd be always out fishing, kind of. They'd row a boat in 6 miles across up to Castletown Bear. I used to hear my father saying some smart rowing boat. And he said the water would be coming over the gunnels of the boat and inside, and they're rowing, no engine or a bit, 6 miles they'd have to row it.
They'd row from Kilcrohan over to...
They were tough times, girl. They were tough times. Even when I remember we were walking from, I suppose it was when they came out here, I got a job. Christy Cronin for a night, he's dead now. Standing poles from Glengariff up as far as Bear and Castletown Bear out west of there's a place there on Castletown Bear. And all we had, like, it was all rock, as you know, up along there to stand the pole with something else.
Yeah.
So one of the boys got an idea anyway. He said, it was supposed to go down 6'6" like the poles were, you know.
Yeah.
And Lord God tried to dig them. And I used to be boring, but I had all boring machine for boring the holes to blast them in the latter end. But anyway, this day, we were above, because I said the last pole that was put up, somewhere above an alley, he said, somewhere around that area anyway. And Almighty God, Paddy O'Sullivan was his name, he was a postman in Bantry. His father was a postman, very nice, so that he'd be up in the pole, like put it on the wire. And I could still see him coming down, the pole was going away like this all the time, you see. we used to cut 3 feet, that much off of every pole.
That was one way to get it to the right
so
height.
I know, Gillen, because, Eleanor, I'm not joking you, the jackhammer we had, before I got old boring machine and from Sean Sweeney's out, you couldn't break natty, but you'd hardly break eggs, like, it was that bad, you know. Yeah, that's the way it was.
So you found a different solution.
Yeah. That's the only way out of it, like, you know.
Yeah. So working off the farm and then coming home and having to
that's the thing,
look after animals.
Yeah, it was all milking, that it was all by hand with no light or a bit. We had the bit girl set in with 7 or 8 cows, like, and the old creamery, like, we'd go to the creamery doing the drop of milk, and that's the way it was.
Yeah. But there wouldn't have been a whole lot of time outside of all of that.
I feel sure that Eleanor girl.
Yeah.
Were there as many trees then?
Sorry?
Now? Were there as many, I'm wondering kind of like, you see pictures of Bantry and there were a lot fewer trees, it looks like, at that time.
Yeah. There was no forestry around here. That time, there was only just a few ordinary, more or less, ash trees and a couple of oak trees maybe here and there, but not very much oak. It was mostly ash and white thorn and things like that, like, you know, nothing like now, like the real quilter trees, like, you know, that, you know.
So there's the bigger plantations with the Sitka and
that's right. That's right, yeah.
But the fields would have been smaller.
They're all made big. The fences were taken out of them, you see, because when the tractors came in, you see, there was not only a horse and plough, like, that's all we had.
Yeah.
You know, and everything's made bigger and bigger and bigger, and I don't know.
Yeah. Then what would you have done with a bill hook, or how would you have looked after the hedges?
We just go and get it all. No thing we had for cutting, kind of a bill hook, and cut furs and things for the horses with that, like, you know. Yeah. And there would be much more hedge cutting done. You maybe cut off a bit off of trees if you wanted a bit of a fire or something like that, maybe. And there was that. Nothing, they were never looked after like us, to be taken care of, like, you know, kind of. That's the way it was, girl,
Yeah. And ploughing with the horse and the
horse and the old plough, that's all we had, girl. That was it.
And would you have turned over the land much then and seeded with grass?
We would, because we'd all have a few fields of corn, like oats and things like that. It would be much barley around because the ground wasn't suitable here for it. Like, there was oats, would grow oats fine, but barley you'd need better earth, like soil, like, you know.
Okay.
But it was all oats mostly, like, you know.
Mostly oats,
If you had a real good field, like, no, you could set barley all right in it, like, you know. But then if you have a big field and cut a whole lot of it in again.
Yeah.
Even your man, there was the fellow talking about having the old character over there.
Yeah.
I remember I suppose I was only about maybe 13 or 14 years, and when I went over to him this day anyway, at the garden, he asked me to come over doing the garden, would cut him for binding the garden and things like that, and I said he will. And you'd never get anything from the same man, like, nothing, you would never get a penny from him, like, kind of.
Yeah.
But so the weather was kind of bad, wasn't great, like, you know, for showers, rain and things, and for cutting corn you have to have it dry, really, like, you know, but then you cut it away, and this old man I was telling you about, the fellow there standing in his head in the bog hole, the character fellow, like, he comes, hot to Christ, no, Paddy, he come up in and I'll tell you, he said this, he said, the weather is kind of bad, he said, and when you're at the binding the corn, he said, and making snooky up the hedge, the corn tonight, turn the grain down to the ground. He said, and that'll save the grain if you turn to the ground, you see. Yeah. And of course, the men there the bride man, he thought to us, and he'd work until 1 o'clock in the morning, like, you know, there was no bother to him. And it was dark, it's like you couldn't see much, had it, like, you know, kind of when he just went to be bound, and you'd have about 10 stooks, 10 sheaves of corn, like, to every stook. And of course, I was doing what your man told me. And of course, Mike went home anyway. I went home and said, we walked over, and we got about 3 weeks of bad weather after that. And Mike didn't go to see the oats, and when he went to see the oats, it was after growing down into the ground.
Yeah, take a seat. Yeah,
Tim had a mighty laugh at that.
Barley, so that would have been normal. Most farms would have grown those.
It was mostly oats here. Nearly all you'd hardly ever see field of barley here. It was all oats nearly, yeah.
And were they grown for animal feed?
For animal feed, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how you could get the oats to the animals, like.
Yeah.
And it was great for them, like that. It was massive stuff for horses, like, you know.
Yeah. And would you change around the fields you'd grow it on?
Different field every year, like,
year.
Like the potatoes, you know, like you'd usually have them in a different ground every year, like.
Yeah. So growing the oats and the barley, the corn, the potatoes.
Oats and potatoes, that's the most of it, like, you know,
and
kind of.
Set cabbages and.
There wouldn't be big lots of sat, you know, like we might set a couple of drills with cabbage and carrots and turnips. Mostly it was all turnips. Like, yeah. And now we can't grow a turnip here and it's hard growing.
Okay.
That is a fact.
Why?
I'll tell you why. The forestry.
Okay.
I didn't know it. I used to grow grand turnips. I used to actually sell them in Bantry, I remember at the time. I'd take in maybe a couple of loads of them and sell them to the shops inside. I remember the day we went over to Drumleague, the wife was going to the doctor. There's old parish, like Drumleague's old parish, and money was very scarce, and I said if I had about 10 bags of turnips, and you get maybe 3p a turnip for them or something like that time. And anyway, when I went there, I knew the man that he knew me and all. He said, Paddy, he said, all I can give you is a penny halfpenny. That was for each turnip. And I sent herself down afterwards to see by the way buying a turnip, you know, see whatever he's charging for him, 9p. Yeah, that was the way it was. That's the way it was done. Yeah.
That's some
I got a penny halfpenny for each one.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was a couple of bob. You come home with, like, you know, and
you did what
very easy, Eleanor.
Yeah.
You know.
But why are you saying the turnips don't grow anymore? Because the forestry?
When the forestry, even my own forestry above there, I had all that in the forestry there. You can see there's bits left there now.
Yeah.
And it was all planted. And I used to grow some grand turnips, beautiful turnips all the time.
Yeah.
And a couple of years then, I had them over here in this field here, and I said to myself, how is it the turnips want? They'd grow fine, the leeks would be there.
Yeah.
But there'd be no button them.
Okay, yeah, they wouldn't fill
out. And one day I went over to Georgie Ross there, you know, that for a few plants of different stuff. And I said to him, his son was in college. I said, I can't seem to grow a turnip for a couple of years. And he said to me, is there any forestry he's around your place? I said, I have forestry myself. I said, and I'm covered with no wood forestry.
Yeah.
You'll never again grow a turnip, he said. They're just whatever's in them trees of spruce.
The acid from them, I suppose.
There's something anyway, and they'll come up fine, but they won't get about that height look, and they're no more. They're nothing.
They won't fill out.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, that's news. Great.
I had only one brother, and he's dead now, the last time I seen him. And I had 3 sisters, and there's one of them over in Wales. And the other girl I was only over to see her 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
She's my baby sister. Yeah, I'd seen her like since Billy died, that's 4 years ago. And she's like a little badly now, like she's, you know, the creator, she's 75 now, and she's at the putting on a lot of weight, kind of, you know, she's only hardly able to walk now, the poor old creator, you know. But she was always my favourite sister, like, you know, kind of. But the other girl, then she's married. She's married to a Welshman. He's a fierce, nice man. He's a. They're the whole bloody world travelling down. They're talking about going over to America again, and driving all through to the Grand Canyon and all around some place. I don't know. They're retired now. They were 2.
And the girls were younger.
The girls were young. Yeah, myself and the brother were the older, the 3 girls. Yeah. Well, I had 2 stepsisters there.
Yeah.
My mother's first husband, he died. They were married 4 years.
Yeah.
He had their two
They
girls.
were older than you.
They were older than me, girl, yeah. He died
So
with
did you
pneumonia.
have to look after your younger sisters then going out?
Yeah, we used to do the best we could.
Yeah, if you're going out to dances.
They weren't much looking after. I tried to get some girl yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And would you have gone to dances in town then?
Oh,
when
we
you
would
were
have get
young,
the
or-
boys' club. That was the
Yeah.
time. We wouldn't go any further than the boys' club, or maybe down to Skibbereen there. Maybe now and
Okay.
then if you could get a spin
Yeah.
there, like it was hard to,
Yeah.
you know. So we walked. I don't know. I used to walk out from Bantry. I remember I walked from Kilworth camp. You know where Kilworth is?
Yes, up in
when
North Cork.
I was in the
Yeah.
army, and myself and another fellow, he was Paddy Creedon. He's dead now as well. He's from Ballingeary, and Paddy was a very nice old lad, but he was a little bit over heavy, like to go to Cyprus. You see, we were two great old buddies, like kind of the two of us. But he wasn't able to shoot right either. Like he wasn't good at shooting, and I used to shoot into his target. If I said, give him a few points, you see, but I was good enough. Like I had plenty points.
Yeah.
And I used to shoot into it, but he still didn't do, like, you know, kind of the cop there.
Yeah.
But we walked one day, we went, I was going to Gelling Kate at the time, and I was going to Cyprus the day after, you know, and I wanted to see her before I'd go, like, kind of.
So you were 21.
I was 21, I wanted to see her before I go anyway.
Yeah.
We had very little money, myself and Paddy, that time we were working £6 a week, we were getting that time in the army. I was at £4.6, something like that anyway. But we started walking here from Kilworth camp, I'd say about 7 in the morning. We got a little spins here and there. We might get a spin for a mile or 2 miles that way, like, you know, and walk on. I hit Bantry at 9:30 that night, walking all day, and did not spin here and there. It was the longest walk I ever had in my life. Yeah. And anyway, lucky enough, I met her. She was inside those still in Bantry in the cinema. Like Con Kerrigan would say that him, there wasn't much fun in the old kissing, that was it, go home.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Everything
I
was
had to
simple.
face from Bantry to walk out home.
Yeah.
You see, because I'd be going away the day after, like, to Cyprus, and
And how long a walk would it be from Bantry
to
out
7
to
miles.
here? Yeah.
7 miles, I remember leaving inside in Bantry.
It would
Anyway.
take you a couple of hours.
Huh?
It would take you a couple
I
of
used to
hours.
make it in an hour and a half walking.
You're a fast
But I was
walker.
fairly lively that time, to be
Yeah.
honest, but Eleanor.
Yeah.
But I remember coming out there at first. You don't know where John Sweeney's is, do you? John Sweeney's place there. There's a good straight there on the road.
Yeah.
I was so bad, and I didn't even have a drink. Drank nothing.
Yeah.
I was so bad with fatigue, like so from up in the morning, 6 o'clock, and then start walking at 7, and all day walking, bits and
nearly the whole
pieces.
county.
And I remember I was walking, next day I felt my leg going down. I was going to a drain,
Yeah.
and I put my hand up in the ditch like that to grab it. I put up on top of a big loose stone. Down
Yeah.
comes the stone on top of my toe. I lashed my toenail over it. I tell you that waked me up going home. I was fine and awake going home with a height of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the longest walk I ever had in my life anyway.
Yeah. You earned your place in the army that night. Yeah.
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 Man over there, God rest his soul, he's dead in his grave. And this fellow said he was be playing cards in houses, you know, and going, you know what there was a crooked bridge, there was called a little bridge over there from Jerry Shea's to Sean Bryan's. You could go across the river there, like a little footbridge they had there. And this fellow was going home this night anyway, this man anyway. He said that he met a pig. There was a pig inside in the old sleeve, the old wasteland, and the pig was sitting up and it's behind. And he said, Paddy, he said, I'll never forget as long as I live the look in the pig's eyes. And he's sitting and looking at me, you know, he said. And, but there was another fellow had the story, the same kind of a story, like what he said, how the pig turned into a ball of fire and went over the road rolling in a ball of fire. And, you know, things are exaggerated too, like, you know, but there used to be people there, by the way, see things in the river. The lights going along, there was supposed to be a holy well over there, over Jeremiah Callinas, that there'd be a light come all the ways from north, somewhere there, and come all the ways along by the river and go up there over where the holy well was. They would have all them kind of sayings, like kind of, a lot of that.
Yeah.
But no, I was out of, I remember right, one night they come out from town, It was kind of late, I'd say. It was about maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and there right at, where the road turns out to meet us here, there one go up to Ardnagui, the road there, just beyond the old co-op where it was there. And there was a sow there on the road, a big sow sitting down on the road, and of course I didn't take much notice, but I see this man. There's a gate going up a road there, right where my sister used to live, a gate going up there straight from that corner. And I see this man in a white shirt and his 2 hands out like Jesus on the cross, and he back like that and his head hanging down. And I thought to myself, I was saying to myself, is it the devil or what is it, with the pig and the man? And afterwards I was inside this house anyway, whatever they were talking about ghost story, because whoever had the biggest ghost story, that was a renowned person for the rest of their life, kind of. But the woman, she's out in America, she said, Paddy, she said, there's a graveyard up there, she said. Pink, she said, seen that.
Yeah.
But that was the only thing I ever come across that kind of frightened me a bit, I'll be honest.
Gave you a good scare.
That's the way it is, elder girl, yeah.
Yeah.
Have you remembered the explosions down at Whitty? Were you there that day?
I remember the explosion well. I tell you, I was actually there. I was in the house there, where the house is down, and I broke out a door there. That day, the door broke out, and it split the wall. The noise that it made, I thought the whole wall was after falling down. It split from top to up to the chimney top.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the blast that went off in Whitty that night. Yeah. So I'll never forget it. I knew all the lads that were inside there that got killed there, because we were in there working there. Yeah. Got a job there after, inside and we worked.
God, so I didn't realise it would have come this far out the blast.
It did, girl. There was things sure he found over there Neil Sweeney's place. Yeah, there was debris came out there on the road in places. Yeah. That'd be 5 miles or 6 miles out of Whitty, or more. Yeah.
Tell us about your tattoo.
The only reason I got that was actually I was in the army at the time.
Yeah.
And I was going to a girl, her name was Patsy Doyle.
Yeah.
And of course, all the lads were getting the tattoos, and I said, it was grand and clear there, Pat was in the middle of it there. I wrote, by the way, and so Pat was my name anyway, And I told her there was her name down there. Yeah, that's the only tattoo I ever got.
Yeah. So it was unusual for your age group to get tattoos.
You'd hardly see anybody would it. The only people you'd see that time.
It's very common now, but
the only ones you'd see that him was the army fellas. They all had tattoos.
And the Navy.
And I remember that thing cost me 8 shillings. That time, 8 shillings was a lot of money that time.
Yeah.
And we were getting £2 something a week,
Yeah.
And I thought that was big enough. And I tell you one thing, it was painful enough getting it on.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know in the name of God what people does all this plaster, all this little is all right. I see my own son there, Mark, he's a fright altogether. And John over us, but he's bad with him as well.
So what else do you remember about style from when you were younger? What would have been the fashion?
The fashion that time?
Yeah.
Kind of baggy trousers, I suppose. That's all with the fashion that time, elder girl, kind of, and the winky tippers with the pointy toes that you couldn't hardly get your shoe. They were so tight in the top. Yeah. That was the kind of a fashion, really. You'd all be always dressed up in collar and tie, and not like there now, if you go out now with a shirt on a Sunday, you'd have to have a tie on you, and everything be spotless, but nowadays everything be a loose shirt open, and
So you would have dressed up smart for the Sunday?
Always would. First Sunday, Master would be always kind of dressed up yeah.
And if you were going out to a dance?
Yes, you would be fairly.
You'd scrub up and have the style.
Yeah.
And would you go into a barber's, or would you cut? Would you have had your hair cut at home?
I'd say I only went to a barber once in my lifetime.
Cool.
God rest her soul, Bernie used to always cut my hair. And now Alison, the daughter, she does it for me.
Great, fantastic, yeah.
Because the bloody barbers, they clean you out, they take the whole lot off. You'd be as bald as could be and perished with the cold after them.
Yeah. So tell me, where did you meet Bernie?
I met Bernie, I'd say, was the first weekend I came home from Cyprus, and I used to be going to Lassie there that time when I came down to see before I went away, like, but when I came back from Cyprus, because she had another man anyway. Another man was 6 months, a long time wait for the girl too, waiting for a fella, like, kind of, but anyway. We went down to Skibbereen, myself and Paddy O'Brien. Paddy said we'll go down to Skibbereen. There was to be an old dance hall over in Mealagh, the new one they built there that time, that Eleanor used to road, the Cork Road there. It was a big store now, like that was a dance hall they built, and it never functioned right, and it was turned into a kind of a place there now. He holds the stuff there, selling second-hand stuff around there. But I met her, and we went to Skibbereen, myself and Paddy. And I don't know how the hell we got there. I actually don't know how we got there. I can't forget now. But anyway, we were sizing up there, and I wouldn't mind, but I had a big bloody big hole of a boil up there in my neck. After coming back from Cyprus, I got some sting from something. It was a pretty bad one. I had a covering over it. And I see her. I see there weren't too many inside in the hall at the time. And I see her brother-in-law and his wife. I see there was three sisters up there that night. Like, the brother-in-law was the first one. He was married to her a few years, and then he had the two sisters. They were single. Bernie was the last one coming in anyway. I can't quite even. Bernie was a fairly flashy woman, I can tell you that time, Eleanor. She was a very good-looking woman.
For her style.
She was, in fairness, she was. And I said to myself, that time, you see, you'd ask a woman for a joke sometimes, because you know the refusal, like, kind of.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, she's going to refuse me now. Anyway, I'm going to ask her. I don't care whether she refuses me or not. Like the fellow that was not there, Mick Dick. He'd go from one end of the hall to the other end, asking to be out, no, I don't know, this or that kind of, and he'd still ask away, like, you know. But anyway, I chanced over. I said, I just ask her. She can only refuse me anyway, like. And, but Lord God, she came with me out, and that was it, you know. I didn't know where she lived there a bit, then you see, I didn't know. And I was supposed to go out some other night to meet her, and I couldn't go or something. The motorbike broke down or something, I couldn't go there. And I didn't know what the address was. It was Jackie Russell, my first cousin. I said, Jackie, do you know any girls up in the desert? I said, there in Clonakilty. I said, they're Driscolls. Oh, cripes, she said, Tommy Driscoll's sisters. He said, they're red-haired. I said, they are. Oh, he said, that's desert Clonakilty. He said, if you write to her there, write a letter to her there, and she'll see what she'll say. So she told me that a lot, and she said she'd meet me, and I wouldn't mind, but I had another woman at the same time, and I had her over in Ballineen that night, like she had a date for that night with her over in Ballineen, they'll dance all there. Jesus, I said to myself, no, if that one comes, what am I going to do? No, like, I didn't think she'd come at all. I'd be honest about it. But by Christ, didn't she walk herself and the sister and the brother-in-law again? Yeah. So that was it. So that was it, girl, from there on.
And there were no telephones to be able to
nothing, no telephone or a bit, girl, yeah. That's
you
the
had
way
to
it
make
was,
an
yeah.
arrangement.
Sure, that was it.
Write a letter.
God almighty, write a letter is right, girl.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And you never looked back.
I never looked back, girl. I know she was a great woman. I swear to God, she was a very good woman. I'll be honest about her. Yeah. She was a bit of temper, all right, but I tell you,
right.
She was a great woman.
Yeah.
You know.
And what age were you when you got married?
I'd say 24, I'd say was elder guest. 24, I think. Yeah. It was fairly young that time for us to get married that time, because a lot of them would be over 30 like before they get married.
Okay. Yeah. And why would they be older when they got married? Because it would take you that long to...
I don't know, sure, some fellas would be, Christ, they think they'd never, I don't know, some fellas would be like that. They didn't want to get married and they wanted a single life, I suppose, kind of, and I don't know, you know. And so we had nothing when we got married, like we hadn't a bit really, like kind of, you know, nothing yet. It was, you know, a bit of a little job. I used to work in what they call it there, inside in Whitty. I got a job there after coming out of the army, and I remember it was £6 a week we were getting that time in the army before I left. And my first, the man that was Collie Brian's father over there, he said, Paddy, they're looking for cook. I said I cooked for the mayor in New York, which I did. Do you know who I thought the Mealagh New York was? And that's gospel
Go
truth.
on, yeah.
I thought it was a horse. You know, a horse and a mare.
Yeah,
A mare
yeah.
is a gelding. And I thought it was a mare. A horse was coming. They said the Mealagh New York is coming. Would you be Mrs. Justin, the proprietor? She said, Paddy, do you think you'll be able to cook for the Mealagh New York for breakfast? And I said, what am I going to give the Mealagh New York? She said, a fry up. Jesus Christ, I didn't see no horse. I said, where is the horse? I said, like, you know, kind of for the breakfast. And so the man walks in the thing, and the woman said, so that's the Mealagh New York, that's the man. He said, not the horse.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the way it goes, you know. That's
He
the
got
way.
his breakfast anyway.
He got his breakfast, girl, yeah, and I always say, like, I got a job I got a job inside in 40 years as a cook, by the way.
Yeah.
And so there was no cooking to do, it was only actually cleaning. And I was pretty good at cleaning, I'll be honest about it, because I worked in a hotel. That was the first job I had, working in that hotel. I was there for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And I was doing every job like you'd get, like I was doing it. And I could cook breakfast, I could do anything that line out, but I wouldn't roast dinners, I didn't know anything about them either. But I said I was a cook into when I went in. What can you do? And I said I was an army cook, like. And they wouldn't ask for papers anyway. Oh, he said, we can do what you, he said, would you be interested in going out in the mules? I didn't know what the mules was, I didn't even know what they were talking about. I said, I'll go anywhere. And out in the ship, he said, they would do all the concrete, all where the ships were tied up at that time, like, you know. It was only making sandwiches for them, that's all I was doing, making soup. There was no more cooking, only. There was this big man there. He was from... He was away out from Christ. He was a very nice man. He was the boss. And when I took over there, I tell you, when I went in there, oh God, I said, how am I going to clean up this place? It was that bad. It really was bad, like, you know. About 30 minutes inside there to give them sandwiches, make sandwiches for them for the day and give them soup and things. There was no more than sandwiches or soup. But anyway, I was telling this one now before I forget about it. But anyway. But they told me when they were taking me on, they said, you'll be the first staff when they'll leave you off, because the job was nearly over. There was only a few weeks left in it. They said, you'll be the first staff now, because last man on is always the first man off. I said, that's fine. So anyway, I was there, I suppose, so maybe about, I'd say 8 weeks, near enough, when anyway I was told like that I'll have to pack up like that because they were closing down. And anyway, I was home here for a week, I suppose, and oh God, I went back into town again, I suppose for the dole or something, maybe that time, I wasn't married a bit that time, like, and I met this lady in here that she used to be going, my brother-in-law go. And we always very good old friends anyway, and she said, Paddy, should we go for a drink like that? And I said, all right, really like that to her. And she said, we're going to, you know that place there. I thought it was a dinner house one time. There was no bar in there. Like he said, I said, what are we going here, Mary? Oh, we're going here. She said, nice and quiet here. We'll have a drink in here. And I thought, there's no bar here. There is, what do they call that place? They down below the solicitors there. You know, what that solicitor was there.
Oh, at the clinic, McSweeney's?
No, that's the way above the top of town. This is the way down near Vicky, like near the hotel, near Cloncalen's Hotel, near that place.
I don't know what would have been.
It was a fish house. It was mostly fish there all the time.
Yeah.
So we went in there anyway, and almighty Christ. We weren't long inside drinking when this man walks in. And who was it but the boss that was over me outside in the mules in the ship.
Yeah.
He said, Paddy, he said, why did you leave us? Yeah. I said, I was told to go, sir. I said, because the last man on was supposed to be the first man off. Mm-hmm. I'll see to that now. He said, Paddy, you'll be back again, he said. Christ,
Don't you worry, Paddy.
No, I'll have to go down to the river to see my cow.